been a long time coming, folks, but the big champion patch and content update is here. Let's knock out the miscellaneous changes and we'll cover champions towards the end. So housing got some pretty significant changes. Deed acquisition has been made much smoother by reducing costs overall and removing a lot of the tedium involved in actually obtaining the materials required to construct them. All the previous gold costs were removed from the crafts along the way and replaced with building permits, which can be bought from counselors for 25k or sometimes found as rare loot. The old nails, shingles, foundations, and glass were removed from the crafting recipes, but if you still have some stacks of these left over, you can just vendor them for a decent bit of gold. So the housing module recipe was changed to require 75 ingots, 100 wood, 250 stone, 10 limestone, and 10 mahogany. Quick note on timber and mahogany: timber is now cut into oak planks, and mahogany can be cut into mahogany planks, using the same 5:2 ratio, so just treat mahogany as a rare type of timber. Earlier today on Discord, Neil K linked some new paintings for houses too, so we could see some new decorations at some point. In addition to the housing stuff, there were lots of significant crafting updates. So in engineering, building modules and strong boxes can be remotely crafted, personal strong boxes can be crafted at level 1, and party strong boxes at 25. And in engineering mastery, all the warhawks were lowered to 1, 25, 50, and 75 skill. So you could start crafting a spider scarab at level 1. In construction, all the gathering tools were added as crafts using wood and ingots and have double the durability of the vendor bought ones. And real quick on gathering, reagent output from nodes is now affected by the bonuses based on your region, so you'll get more sulfur, mandrake, resin, etc. in lawless areas. Also in construction are some of the housing add-ons like safes and the craft stations. And moving to scribing, all gold costs for skill books and spell scrolls were lowered by 80%, so you can scroll up your character much cheaper now. For taming, bluetail runners were reduced from 50 to 25 skill, and the recipe requires 2 steed grass and 20 leather, so leveling taming should be a lot smoother now. And moving on to possibly the coolest change is the addition of the missing dragon armor pieces. There's now a complete set, and the requirements for dragon are gradual, with some pieces at 75, leading up to the chest and the helmet at 100. Also, Kilrain linked this really sweet white infernal helmet on Discord, so who knows what they have in store for us. Moving on to looting and PvE. This is a big one. So skinning has been completely removed, and anything which would have been skinned is now directly on the corpse. In addition to this, corpses have a new visible decay timer, which starts at 10 minutes and resets to 30 seconds each time you loot an item. So whenever you're done looting the corpse, it's always going to disappear within 30 seconds, which means no more looting stuff just to trash it. Also, tombstones have a new ownership mechanic, so looting a corpse which doesn't belong to you in a lawful area will cause you to flag rogue. Keep in mind, hit protection keeps you from looting the corpse anyway. And while we're on the subject of hit protection, it also prevents you from jumping on someone else's mount in lawful areas. Alright, moving on again, onto tasks. So tasks got a really nice makeover with 13 new title tasks and 10 epic champion task lines with titles associated with them, and they seem to have a decent looking rewards in addition to the titles. Your paper doll has a titles button so you can choose your prefix and suffix, and I'm assuming the prefix is just saint and villain, and the suffix is just the task titles, so it could be like villain whatever the soul stealer, or whatever you choose based on what you've acquired. There's some really cool ones in here, like the Bringer of Pain, the Tribelands Defender, the Apex Predator, the Soul Stealer, several more. A lot of these seem pretty grindy from what I can tell, but with the bonus rewards and the titles, they're really neat, and it's going to be interesting seeing what everyone goes for. It's definitely going to give us something to do, something to work for a while. And I can only imagine they're going to add more. So this next one was a touchy subject on the forums for a while, and it's about the bunny hopping changes. But really it doesn't feel much different aside from taking a little damage every hop instead of being able to hop perfectly without taking any damage. The only thing it really affects is hopping on 1 hit point, because you'll get sprained and stop jumping for like 2 to 3 seconds. But other than that, bunny hopping feels pretty good. There are also a couple of small combat balance changes. So Greatsword's got a reach nerf of 0.05, and Polearm's got a reach buff of 1.0. So that's a pretty significant swing between those two. This kind of brings Greatsword's balance more in the direction of where knives are, with higher DPS but shorter reach. And this is definitely leaning on the safer side of balance changes, but overall it's a good starting point. And sort of related to combat is a change made to Come Hither. So whoever gets hit by Come Hither now has a Feather Fall buff on them, which basically just absorbs the next instance of fall damage. So this can work both ways. Come Hither was already a brutal spell, just by putting your opponents out of position, but on top of that, it made them take fall damage. So this new Feather Fall mechanic opens up a lot more room for teamwork based Come Hithers, and it makes it a little more forgiving if it's used offensively. Alright, I know this is a longer one, but there's a lot of stuff in here. So just a few general changes real quick, and we'll cover the champions and their new weapons. So the weight on meat was reduced from 1 to 0.01. Weight on reagents was reduced by 80%, which is shown to be very significant in both PvP and while farming. Siege defense timers should be fixed, so holdings aren't vulnerable instantly. World map settings should persist when you open and close it. Spell upgrade costs were lowered from 1,000 gold to 250 gold. And each racial land has their own music track playing, so be sure to turn your ambience on, not too high, if you're running around in the mainland now. Alright, finally, so the biggest part of this patch is the champions and their new loot. And a quick rundown for people who haven't done champions before is there's 10 champions, 1 for each racial area and 1 for each subcontinent. You have to fight your way through 3 stages which have waves of monsters based on the champion you're fighting, and they get increasingly stronger, and each stage requires more points than the last to complete, and you have to complete each stage within a fairly short time period. Mainland champions were designed for a group of 5 to 15, and the subcontinents were designed for a group of 15 to 25, and obviously this depends on the player skill level and your gear and all that. But these numbers just kind of serve as a guideline for how you want to gauge your group. Everyone who participates in the champion kill, up to 15 people on the mainland and 25 on a subcontinent champ, will get a loot roll to their backpacks when the champ is killed, kind of like how villages distribute loot automatically. And the champion itself also has some rare drops and skinning mats and the sealed treasure, which is where the real loot is. So the sealed treasure is like a super powered chaos chest that you open at any point and it spits the good loot out. All sealed treasures seem to drop rares like RD mats, safes and house items, rare ores, etc. And they always drop 2 high-level stat elixirs, which can be used to boost a stat by +1 up to 120. So you could eventually have 120 in all stats unbuffed if you want to grind it out. So in addition to the rares and the elixirs, the subcontinent treasures always drop 2 Q6 enchanted gems. So that's like 0.26 stam efficiency, 0.13 keens, really high end stuff. The mainland sealed treasures always drop a champion weapon based on which champion you kill. These are new rank 75 weapons with a cool new boon buff mechanic. So the way these work is when you hit with the weapons, it has a chance, which is shown on the weapon, to proc, which is going to put a buff on you, which lasts 8 to 14 seconds depending on which weapon you're using. While affected with this buff, your hits have some kind of bonus effect like more damage or a heal or something, and every 4th hit with the buff up is going to cast some strong damaging spell on your target. These bonus spells are full effect high damage spells, so these things can be really strong if you can capitalize on the proc. The only thing is it's really obvious when you proc because the buff has like a full buff animation, so it allows for some counterplay, but overall they seem really powerful. Honestly, I'm super hyped to see some replay videos where people like get a clutch proc off and just shred someone. It's gonna be really neat. Anyway guys, if it's been a while or if you're on the fence about coming back, now's a good time. There's plenty to do, plenty to grind, plenty of action to be had at the champions, plenty of titles and tasks to do. And I really feel like this patch is just the beginning of lots of great things to come. So hopefully we'll see you in game. Thanks for watching everyone.